and I'm joined by Adam Stetzer.
Hi, good afternoon, Chad. Welcome, everybody. Glad you could join us. Lots to talk about. I'm sure this will be an exciting one. I'm up here in the Rochester office and joined by our account management staff.
Hello.
We've got a full house today. Looks like putting Google updates in the name of your webinar is a good way to get a good attendance, so we'll have to remember that in the future. But here we are again. It's been a busy year so far with Google updates, and we wanted today to talk about what we know about Hummingbird so far, and then of course Penguin 2.1 snuck in on Friday, so we also wanted to cover that. We also wanted to talk a little bit about preparing for the future, which has been a consistent theme for the last year or more, but we always are talking about what to be doing and how to evolve your online marketing. And then we also wanted to end it today with going through some of the recent dashboard updates that we've made to accommodate the encrypted search changes that Google made a couple weeks ago. I found a really interesting graphic on Google's website that sort of rolls out and shows a timeline of the different changes they've made over time, and there have been a lot. If people can think back even 5 or 6 years ago to what Google looked like back then and what it looks like today, they really have dramatically changed the user interface. The links are still there, the referrals to organic websites are still there, but really there's been this consistent theme of surfacing more information right into the search results window rather than making people leave Google to go to other places. As all of us probably can understand, that makes a lot of sense for Google because they want to answer your questions, they want to keep you on their properties. So it's important as we're talking today to understand some of the differences between their user interface and all the things we see in their user interface and then the underlying algorithm that decides what should go into that particular search window. A lot of these features here are things and enhancements they've made to their user interface, but their algorithm has to be changed to better identify when to put certain things like the knowledge graph, images, news stories, whatever it might be, into the search results. So really that takes us to Hummingbird, and really you're going to see a theme here that this is all about answering questions better. That's what Google's trying to do. So what is Hummingbird? It launched at the end of August 2013. It's a completely new algorithm that, in other words, when it's whatever you're searching for, Hummingbird is a new algorithm that tries to interpret what you want and then find the best results for that answer or for that question. Now, some people have asked, well, does that mean PageRank is gone because wasn't that a really important part of Google and how Google worked? And the answer there is that no, it's not gone, but now it's one part, and you don't know exactly what the weight is, but it's a part of more than 200 different factors that make up Hummingbird and how the algorithm works. Danny Sullivan said that, if you think about Hummingbird, Hummingbird is sort of like almost a whole new car, or at least a whole new engine in a car in terms of the way it works, whereas some of the other incremental enhancements, caffeine, even some of the things like Penguin Panda have been more like new alternators, new camshaft, whatever it was, but things that were sort of tack-ons and improvements to engine, whereas what Hummingbird is a whole new engine. So really, the main focus is that as over time, and I remember seeing studies on this, that there was someone who had kind of researched it and said that every year or two, the average number of words that people put into their search queries was growing. So as people became more and more familiar with searching, they were asking more and more complicated questions, because we all know that if you type in shoes, you're going to get all kinds of shoes. But if you type in, men's leather dress shoes, you're going to get a much more accurate result and have to search fewer times to get to where you want to go. So people are putting in more and more complex queries. And really, I think part of this is that Google wants you to get your results you want faster. There's been some criticism that a lot of times Google's, the way they're so link-based, that a lot of times older content tends to surface. They want to address that and be able to get you the most recent up-to-date information as possible, and then also be able to get more rich results into the search pages that we're seeing. Now, I should say that Hummingbird is still pretty new, and there hasn't been a lot of time for people to really study and understand how it's changed the search results. Like I said, if you want to look at your at your analytics, at Google Analytics or whatever tool you're using, towards the end of August, I think it was like 25th to the 28th, somewhere in there, and look at was there a big change in your traffic around that time. That will tell you either whether you happen to pick up some content or pick up some an improvement from Hummingbird, or whether maybe your site was impacted in an adverse way. I went through, and again, this is kind of fun to show because this is really more related to some of the knowledge graph changes Google made. But on the right-hand side of this tab, what you see is that Google is more and more bringing some of the content that you used to have to click to other websites right into the search results page. So now if you search for things like NFL scores, rather than you going to ESPN.com or a local paper, they're actually bringing back scores and putting them right in the search results page. Same thing with things like flight status. So again, you used to go to flighttracker.com. Now Google's going to tell you, because they own some of that data now, where your flight is. And then finally, in this case even, this is an interesting one, but comparing butter with olive oil, they bring back nutritional facts, again, from data that they've indexed and been able to present here in this screen. Again, in preparing for this webinar, I just looked around and what different people were talking about and what information people have so far. I found an interesting trick that Eric Ward was talking about, where he was saying, look at your content today to see if you happen to be answering questions already. So his sample was go to use the advanced search query in title : and then how to, or how can, or how do, and then your site. And so I did this for HubShout, and we have 276 pages on our website that have how to in it. So that's pretty good. If we did how can, the number falls way down, and how do was, again, there were a lot of the results were smaller. But that's just a good gauge to say, like, have I already been sort of trying to answer questions and engaging in creating information that answers questions that people have. So you might want to do this on your site or on your client site to help them understand what direction you want to take things in. Now, what I want to make sure people don't read from this is like, wow, I need to run out there and just write 300 how-to articles, because I don't think what's going to play out with Hummingbird is that if you have how-to in your title, that you're going to rank really well. I think really that's just that's the correlation there. You're not going to see that if I create 300 pages of how-to articles that all of a sudden my rankings are going to go through the roof. You still need to be thinking about what kinds of content can you create, things like guides and infographics, maybe even a glossary of terms. If you're in a technical industry, people search for terms a lot, they want answers. Those are the kind of things that we need to start thinking about as we're creating content that really does answer questions. Okay, so this gets to where I think everybody what they want to talk about is, what can I do to adapt? And really, there's a couple things that we want to talk about that a client can do either with or without HubShout's help. The first one is in terms of the campaigns that we're running with you on behalf of your clients today. This is really, again, another call to action for us all to really start engaging in the content creation process. But we need to all be working with our clients much closer than we ever have been on making sure that they're engaged, they're reviewing the content, that they're maybe even that we're trying to open a feedback loop with them to get ideas about topics that they're hearing their customers ask, because ultimately they are the ones who have that direct customer interaction. So what questions they get that we could answer for them. And then also looking for newsjacking opportunities. There is Google Hummingbird in itself is a great newsjacking opportunity. So, I want to pull up a search results page, and I search for Google Hummingbird, and one of the top 3 results here is something that Adam actually recently wrote for Search Engine Watch. You can see this result here, the third one down, is Google Hummingbird, and that's a really interesting. I think actually we also have things like even if you search for Hummingbird videos, I think in YouTube, if you search that, we have a video that we put out And again, these are just great topics that people are trying to get information about, and these happen, of course, in the online marketing world, but they happen everywhere. There could be, changes that in any industry out there. Again, some of our clients who are in the legal world, there are changes to laws made, or there are interpretations of cases which lead to, again, a lot of people searching to understand how can that change impact my particular case. So these are good things to engage in the content creation process. Another one is that when you do create that content, we really want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to promote the content. So we can help promote the content, and we're doing it today. But what we really want to see people start doing is we want to see the businesses themselves, their Twitter accounts, their Facebook accounts, and even the personal accounts of their employees, helping to promote and push out and build the buzz for the content. Again, we try to beta test a lot of our ideas internally. So we have something internally that we call the swarm, and basically whenever we put out any piece of content, either on our website or we guest blog posts on another website, we always have everyone go and help promote that content in their own way. So some people are big Twitter users, we have them tweet it. We ask them to maybe write a comment also on the post. And so by doing that, we're helping to promote and build the authority and engage and build an audience around that content, which will attract more people to read it and engage in it and interact in that commentary.
Chad, a few questions for you here that are coming in from the chat window. The first one is, if answering questions and creating how-tos is now more important in Hummingbird, why would you not recommend making 300 how-to articles?
Well, I guess what I want to say is there's no proof that that is going to work. There's nothing that says it won't work either, but I don't know if by just simply going out and creating 300 articles that that's going to increase your client's rankings. I guess what I'm saying is that the trick is you don't have to be able to have a question in every title of your blog post. There's lots of ways of providing valuable, useful information without making everything literally Q&A. The whole world turns into a Q&A format. I don't think that's what I'm implying. Certainly, when it makes sense, and if it's the right place in your website where you maybe have FAQs or you are answering questions, and yeah, like go back and think about, do I have a top 20 or 30 list of questions that people have, and can I be answering those questions there?
Right. I think that's a good answer, and I think you're right. There's nothing wrong with making 300 of them, but I do think if your choice was between making 30 excellent how-to blog posts versus 300 mediocre, I think the choice is really clear, and that might be what you're implying, Chad, is really go for the quality over the quantity, and it's related to some of these other reasons you have here, because they will spread, they'll attract backlinks, they'll get into social media much better. So your bang for the buck is actually going to be better with going for higher quality. Related question here is, tell me again why it's important that my client actually tweet the content. We've traditionally kept them pretty far from that.
That's a great one. Well, the reason for that is because ideally when they're tweeting the content, they're embracing the content, they're owning it, they're bringing another audience that's not currently seeing to that content, and there's a better chance that that content is going to get promoted, read, and in general just getting into the buzz about that client, that person's business. So you want to have them promoting, because you never know. Someone could read it and link to it, or someone could read it and be interested in what they have to say and want to learn more from the business. And again, there's that sort of that influence ring, because if not only the business but maybe some of the employees of the business promote it, then each of those people have their own set of following. So you get that sort of compounding effect of each person reaches a different, slightly bigger audience than just one tweet. If you get multiple tweeting and retweeting, you're just reaching a much bigger audience. And we believe that there's the audience value of that, but thinking ahead and looking ahead, we talked about this in some videos that we've done. And Matt Cutts actually came out and said, look, Google +1s on content does not directly cause better rankings. There happens to be a correlation between content that's more engaging and people do +1 and find useful, because probably those same people or another subset of those users who read it go out and and link to it in a blog post or something. But again, what we're trying to do is say we're preparing for, we want as many ways of promoting content as possible, because at some point down the road, that social signal may become something that's a part of the ranking. Again, we're not saying it is today, but better to think ahead than to get caught without having thought about it.
Right. So, I mean, my own answer to that question is really, there's two major advantages to having your client involved in the promotion. One is reach. As Chad said, you will reach far more people. And we've tested this empirically. You know, we've worked on our own sites where we've had employees involved, and we worked on other little test sites where we haven't, and the ones where they're involved just have much more reach, and ultimately their rankings do a lot better. And the other then is quality. When everyone's involved and looking at it and talking about it, if there's something wrong or it's not on the mark, you'll get that feedback, and you want that feedback. Certainly I know for the customers we work with, our writers and content creators and engineers are dying for that feedback, and you need it quick. You need to know what's working and what's not working. When you push it behind the curtain and it never gets updated and the feedback is never there, it can't get better, it just will fall flatter in terms of promotion and won't get you where you want to go. So I think in a post-Hummingbird and post-Penguin world, if you're not ready to embrace the content and convince your clients to embrace it, you're in for rough weather for the next bunch of updates if you haven't already been, because the data is pretty strong on this, and those that weather the updates have the right footprint because they've embraced it, they've gotten the quality where it needs to be, and they've gotten their reach. Now here's another one for you, Chad. How is video and infographic going to be impacted by Hummingbird? Are there any changes to the strategy there?
No, I think if anything, those are, what we're finding is that those are working very well. Not so much in the, because, well, a couple things. One, we're finding in a lot of the work that we're doing with our own infographics, we do one every day. For those of you who don't see, we have 2 video blogging channels or shows that we do. We do a daily brown bag, and then now what we've been doing is having every day we do a daily brown bag. We also have an infographic created. And what we've seen is that as we, again, promote this content, that we actually are having people either embed that video in some cases on their blogs or our infographics. And we think that that, again, is just creating a wonderful set of earned backlinks to our website and building our domain authority. And we believe, and we've seen with our clients, similar things happening. And we have a lot of really cool ideas that we're going to talk about in a minute of ways that we can continue to build on the success that we've already seen. Again, we use ourselves as a sort of a laboratory for some of our ideas, and then we figure out how we can turn that into something that is repeatable with all of your clients. Okay, well, we couldn't have a webinar today without at least getting a slide or two on Penguin 2.1, because this did roll out on Friday on 10/4. It was announced late in the evening. And basically, again, you have to sort of think about these different names, these different birds Google has, right? We've got Hummingbird, we've got Penguin, and then I guess we have Panda. But with Penguin, Penguin's all about targeting over-optimization. And Adam made a great point today. We were doing our daily brown bag video, and we sort of were talking about how there's almost the algorithm that gives the ranking and visibility, and then there's the algorithm that sort of takes it away. So Hummingbird is all about identifying possible candidates when people search for particular queries, identifying the content that would best match that question, whereas Penguin tends to sort of take it away when you over-optimize. And the over-optimization that Penguin targets is typically around backlinking with over-optimization with anchor text, and that's what we've seen in the past. So again, 2.1 rolled out. What we've always said is the best defense around Penguin is diversity. You don't want to do too much of any one thing, because again, that then looks like over-optimization. So a diverse online marketing program is the best way to counteract Penguin. And of course, the number one thing is working on what we call our real SEO. It's all about end user value, and then finding ways to promote and earn backlinks to your website. So one other point here is that if there was an impact with Penguin, you have to also remember the differences between the way Penguin works. What Penguin does is that it essentially removes the benefit you're getting from a certain group of links. You know, Google doesn't publish an exact number that it says you had 100 links and we've decided that 50 we don't like, so we're really just giving you credit for 50. But what happens is it's not typically it's not a case where you're dropping out of the rankings. You're usually falling down. The reason you're falling down in the rankings is because some of the links that were helping support your position end up being identified as being over-optimized. And so that's what's actually happening when you see that you're hit by something like a penguin type of problem. Okay, so let's talk. The next slide then is, what are we doing? What is HubShout doing? Because these are tumultuous times, and wow, we've had so many algorithm updates in just 1 year. Is Google going to stop, or is this going to keep coming? I think at this point, anyone who said this is it, we're smooth sailing to next year would probably be wrong, because we can all see that Google's making a lot of changes, and I think that the pace of changes will probably, I don't know if it'll accelerate, but it's going to at least stay where it is for the foreseeable future. So we need to think ahead. We need to basically start planting the seeds and making the transitions as fast as possible to move into a direction that really is going to prevent us from being susceptible to any issues in the future that Google's looking for. And what we know is we want to create real end user value in the content, and we want to find ways to then promote that and earn links back to your website. So here's the first thing. I don't have any free or easy or magic potions or silver bullets here. I'm sorry, I don't. This is all stuff that's going to probably cost more. It's going to be more work, but it's really just where the industry is moving. So on the side of end user value, we have 2 products that we've recently rolled out that I think, again, if you're not looking at these and testing these with your accounts, and I know most people aren't out there, we've been talking about it. I think most people are saying not really ready to move to some of this stuff yet. You need to be testing some of this stuff. We've got 2 that are active right now. One is our featured article. So let's go through what this is. What we do is we go out to various syndication partner options out there, and we look for ways to pitch a homepage article about that really complements that website more. So whereas with the typical content marketing that we're doing with articles that we're creating, you're feeding in the topics that you want us to write about. What's different about a featured article is that we really have to turn it around and say, what is this website about, and what can we write that's going to be good enough that they're going to be willing to put on the homepage of the website. Now, these websites would be in the client's category, but they may not be exactly about the keyword topics that they want to be writing about. But that's okay, because the website itself is is related to their business, and we're going to find a way to make it so that it fits in. Again, it may not be the exact connection or topic keywords, but it'll be close enough. It'll be close enough that it'll still help the customer's website. We're going to do some custom research. We are going to do our best to make this related to current news, because we're finding that's the best way to get real audience on the website. When people are out there searching on news topics, we want to have answers to those questions, and then we're going to create an infographic with 4 facts. So you can kind of see the infographic on the right actually is longer. I just chopped it off, but this would be a more involved infographic, probably more one with 6 to 10 facts. So it's going to be a shorter infographic, probably closer to what you're seeing that we're doing on the standard marketing campaigns that are out there today. That's a featured article, and that's something you can add on to any existing SEO program. We definitely recommend doing this. The second product that we've rolled out is what we're calling the buzz graphic. Again, so it's a little different here, because the buzz graphic is actually placed on the client's website. And what we do is, again, we do custom research. We do more custom research, but we do custom research. This one really can be very targeted to the client, is more focused on what that client wants to write about, because it's on their website. But again, it needs to be newsworthy, so it has to connect into some other content going on. We're going to create a much better infographic, 6 to 10 facts, and then we're going to have one of our writers, one of our premium writers who works in this category, sit down and with the infographic in front of them and write a nice article that explains all of the facts and information in that infographic. So that should be a very cohesive piece. It's going to be an infographic and a nice article that we've written. We then, again, place it on the client's website, and then we go out and we promote that. And we've been testing promotion with paid tweets, Stumbles. So Stumble Upon has a paid advertising program. Reddit has a paid advertising program, as everyone probably has heard. There's other ones rolling out. Instagram's rolling one out. Pinterest is rolling one out. So there's going to be other things that are other opportunities here for promoting content that we're going to be taking advantage of. The general idea is that if we promote that content to a wide enough audience, that we will get at least some people, will get some audience to the website. So again, you'll see your client will see real traffic to their website from this. But then on top of that, we will, the idea is to present that content in a way that it's very easy to share so that we can get other people to share that information, ideally, possibly with embedding it in a blog post where you might earn a link back to your website. So these are two products that we think, as you're looking at all the world is changing out there and Google's continuing to evolve their algorithm, these are, if you look at everything that Matt Cutts is saying, these we believe are really awesome opportunities for everyone to be adding into the mix. We're at this point where some of the tactics that have in the past that people have been using still work right now, right? But what we want to be doing all as a team here, the community, is starting to transition everybody to the way that we believe it's going to look in the future. And these two kinds of products are what we think are going to be really, really important to the evolution of content marketing and how people are going to be doing really SEO going forward.
Right, and we've been talking about infographics for a long time. I know some of the participants here with us, some of our resellers that go back years, are really excited to see this coming because the visual representation of data is very compelling. It's awesome link bait. Everybody talks about that. In our early tests, and if you follow what Chad and I do daily with our blog and our promotion, we see that these bloggers eat this stuff up because you can picture someone who's trying to cover a certain topic and they're struggling to come up with written words. To have the visual already done by a designer ready to go, you get a little credit for that. They get to beef up what they're presenting. It's just all around an awesome trade. A couple questions for you here, Chad. One is, are these buzz graphics on the blog, or would they be on a landing page, or where will we place them on the client's site?
Yeah, we would most likely place them on the blog if there is one. That's the best place to put them.
Okay, excellent. And the other one is, so does this mean you guys are raising your prices?
Well, like I said, my first point was, sorry, it's not free or it's not easy. I wish it were. It would make everyone's lives easier. These products all have their own prices. So what I think really where this is going in the long run is that if you look back 2 or 3 years, people there was sort of a quantity bias, right? How much are you doing? Is it I can get, if I divide your cost by number of links created, that's how I'm evaluating, making decisions based on that number. And these products, especially Buzz Graphic, you can't do that because the math would be, basically you don't know how many links you're going to earn because you're really trying to essentially create some buzz so that you ultimately do earn links back. But there's other metrics and benefits that the client's going to have. So they do cost more, but they're not even really apples to apples comparison to go back to the other plans. So we're going to publish the prices. We already have the price out on feature article. It's in our current pricing sheet, and we'll be adding Buzz Graphic in probably this week.
Right, but let's be clear, Chad, we're not making any changes to our current plans. So if you're worried this was an announcement that all prices were going up, no, absolutely not on the one hand, but what Chad said you do need to appreciate. And as I think over my years in account management and closing big deals, even with some of my big name brand customers, a Coca-Cola or an AT&T, I always used inoculation as a strategy. My team will all chuckle here because I scream about this all the time. We talk about it every week. And inoculation is this idea of getting your customer to say no to certain things strategically. So if you think they can't afford this or don't want to afford this, and they're still stuck in buying on quantity, you should be presenting these products anyway, because get them to say no to them. And car dealers use this all the time. Like, they can't afford the luxury car, they can't afford the top of the line, so they're going to get the mid-sized or the small economy. And by doing that, they know what they're purchasing and they know what they're not purchasing, and it gives you an upgrade path later if they're dissatisfied. And ironically, by them saying no to some of these things, they generally become more satisfied with what they did pick. So I think there's a lot of consumer psychology that you can use in your sales process and your account management process, even if they're not ready to afford it. But I agree with Chad. I mean, we watch this industry very, very closely. We're in it. This is where the industry is going. So more and more people will be affording it. And if you're not putting it on the table, be sure that some other provider probably is trying to steal that business too.
Right. And I think just in terms of the sales approach, of course, it's always easier to have use cases yourself. I mean, we could give data on some of the what we're seeing and show some of the examples of pickups on stories that we've got. I don't know if that really helps you guys, because there's the the whole issue of you're going to take our data to your client. We could certainly do it in a way of showing here's examples of how this can work. So maybe that's something that would be useful for people. But what I've been doing in some cases is actually just sending out examples to people that and talking about here's some examples of how this works, and suggesting that people maybe try one or two. And this really could just be a try to learn more about how this works. And then the goal is obviously, of course, nothing ever, you always want to do at least 3, right? That's sort of the typical thing with advertising. You want 3 months. Probably want to actually suggest that people will commit to doing 1 a quarter or 1 a month, whatever it is. But that's what I would suggest you start with is at least testing some of these. Find your 1 or 2 clients out there who are more, and everyone knows who they are. They're the ones who always are willing to try new things. They're looking for new ideas. Go to those guys first. Get them to buy into it, because then you can always use your client example and say, here's one of my clients. They did it. This is the results I got. We should get this rolled out to other clients as well.
And Chad, here's another question for you. Going back to talking about how-to resources to generate for a website, in your opinion, is a how-to blog better or is a how-to video better? Which one performs better?
That's a great question. Well, what I probably would say is that if you can do a video and it works, I would make it sort of both. If you look at our blog, we moved pretty much to exclusively to a video blog, but what we do is we get a transcription done of every one of our blogs. So we sort of kill 3 birds with 1 stone, because we have a video, and we always use schema.org to mark it up so that when you find it, you get the nice video thumbnail. You get the transcription for the density of, at least better explaining to these search engines what this video is about. And then we also do the infographic, so it has the pickup. So I would say if you can do the video, great. Do the video, but also transcribe it, and you kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay, so some more things. So what else are we doing? Well, we have 2 other products that we're working frantically on figuring out how we're going to, again, we can get this into our process so that it's something that's reliable and dependable and that everyone knows how it works. We want to roll out a link neutralization product. So what this is we go in and we use some of the data providers that we have access to, and we pull back your client and their competitors' link profiles, and we look at opportunities for links. Now, really this becomes a big analysis game, because what you end up doing is you create the list, you figure out where they have links that are good versus where you do. You look for, you go to places where you don't have a link and they do, and then really at that point it becomes a manual inspection game. You have to go to that website and you have to look to see what's it going to take to get a link on this website, or is it even possible? Because believe me, there's plenty of places that I look out there, I'm like, there's no way you're going to get a link on this website, or nobody's even home on this website, so there's no way you can find out how to contact the person to get a link. So that's a product we're going to roll out. Both of these things I'm talking about now with PR and link neutralization, and I missed one of my bullets here, but it really are more focused on effort. So we'll put the effort in to do that analysis, but there'll have to be an action plan that comes out of that. Some of those are going to be, in some cases, that, hey, these are links that you need to, it's the Yahoo directory, and it's couple $100 a year. Do you want to do that or not? So from that analysis, we're going to have to come back and say, here's the action plan, and here's the cost of executing this. So again, some of it might be, oh, hey, it's just a simple directory. We can go submit you to that directory as well. Other things may take more time or effort, or actually evolve into the second point, which is PR, which really is more traditional media outreach, where you're going in and saying, great, my competitor has a featured story in the local newspaper. Okay, well, that's not easy to get. So do I want to go after that? Because that's going to be really hard. But if I got that story, if I was able to get to that in that spot, it would be really great for a really great place. And of course, if I was able to earn a link back, because in these days it's harder and harder to get those kinds of publications to even to even link in some cases. But if you're able to get a link back, that could be a really good thing. So we're going to be building both these products. But I wanted to point out that a lot of people have been asking about these, but the main thing you have to realize is that these are really more effort-oriented. So you're buying a pack of hours or some way that will package up the analysis, but it doesn't always translate. Those hours aren't going to consistently, from client to client, always turn into the same output in terms of, I was able to earn 20 links back to your website. So you guys will have to understand how to position that and sell it, because it's a different sell. But I think people have asked for this. I'm sure many of you will be excited about these as two services we can offer. Now the final one, actually, which was the first point, is that another thing we are doing to help facilitate that swarming of content that I mentioned is that we're going to be adding in this month into the dashboard the ability for you to OAuth, or to essentially go in and authorize the dashboard to use one of your end client's Twitter accounts to tweet content that's pushed out. So I'm sure right now there's a number of people saying, my gosh, I would never do that. But again, going back to what Adam said, we would say why. We really need to get your client and you and everyone and us all on the same page and have people buying in and working on this content together and being proud of it. So we see this as something that will be really important and useful, and actually will also even include the ability for you to put in more than one Twitter account. So if you have 2 or 3 different accounts that are different parts of the business, or however it's set up, we'll give you the ability to add more than one so that you can tweet out information. So these are the things that we're working on now, and I mentioned before, we've got lots of ideas that we're working on. We typically use ourselves as the beta test. It takes us a couple months to see if things work or don't work, and then we're able to turn it into a product and push it out. So we've got other things that we're doing as well.
So Chad, a couple questions on the auto tweeting. First is, someone said, well, I thought you were already tweeting this content, so I want to take that one. Yeah, we run house Twitter accounts in every one of our buckets, and they have a lot of followers, and they're growing, and they're useful, and there's a lot of engagement in there, and that's a set of followers we can get to. But what we're talking about here is getting end clients to authorize their Twitter accounts to also share this content to their followers. So again, go back to some of the earlier slides here. We're talking about reach. We need to expand the reach of this content because it needs to get to the broadest audience possible to have the maximum impact. We're creating great content. It answers questions. It's useful. It's reviewed by an editor. It's accompanied with great artwork. So we got to get it out there. We got to promote it. And so we realized, this whole idea of what we do here at HubShot, we all swarm our own stuff, and it gets huge reach because everybody has a different list of followers on their Twitter accounts and their G+. We need our clients doing the same thing. The system can help facilitate that to make it administratively a little easier. So there's a little confusion about that. Another question that came in, Chad, was, can you recover authorizing what? I'm not sure what you need me to authorize.
Right. So in the dashboard today, they're on the campaign details, and we're actually going to be doing a demo in 1 second here, but on campaign details, there's a link on the first tab that when you go into campaign details that says manage integration, I think. And when you click on that link, a little window pops up. And in order for us today, it's the same process you use to authorize Google Analytics. You go in there and you essentially authorize the private label dashboard to be able to get data from Google Analytics. And actually, it already supports the ability to link to a Twitter account. So you would do the same thing. You would go in, you click authorize a Twitter account. That sort of bounces you over to a screen that has Twitter branding on it saying, are you sure you want to let this software package have access to your Twitter feed and Twitter? And you say yes, and then basically now we're able to communicate with Twitter as if we were the end customer, and then be able to publish things on their Twitter feed.
Great, thanks, Chad. Here's another one for you. This is a great question. How are featured articles and buzz graphics reported on? Are these standalone services, but do they include any reporting in the white label portal for the client?
Featured article would basically look a lot like a traditional article. The main difference is it's going to be, so it'll be in your content, and it'll be in your syndication tab. Buzz graphic, again, buzz graphic the content itself will be there, so will the infographic. The part that we're going to have to work out, which is why it's almost launched, but the part that we have to work out is how we're going to report back on the paid sponsorship. At launch, more than likely, it'll just be a task that we build and we put some stats in so people have that information. But over time, we might be able to get some nicer analytics into the dashboard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in our labs, we've been experimenting with the Google link shortener, which, if some of you more technically oriented folks know, they keep full analytics on how many people click those links as they pass them through. And we use the API integration for Google link shortener quite a bit in our own task and workflow system just for white labeling. So there's great opportunity there as we get more and more into these promotional ideas, particularly in some of the social media networks and paid promotion, to track that and report that back. So it's a great question, and we're thinking about it and working on it every day. I think it's good stuff.
Okay, well, the next part of our webinar, we wanted to get back to some dashboard updates that we recently launched. And this was, again, related to yet another recent Google change. So it was Google announced that they were moving to 100% encrypted search. And what that really means, and we mentioned this I mentioned this in our last webinar, but what that really means is that when your Google Analytics data, where it says what keyword did someone come from, what keyword did someone use when they came from Google to your website, that data is going to go away. It's going to show someone came from Google, and it'll show that it's an organic visit, but it won't tell you the specific keyword that they were using. So that kind of messed up a few things in our dashboard, because we had several places where we were using that information to build metrics and provide reports to help everyone understand how their SEO campaigns were performing. So we want to talk about the changes we've made to address those. The first one, and I'll be doing a demo in 1 minute, but the first one is the Home tab. So on the Home tab, in the lower right-hand, this lower left-hand module here under SEO, what this used to say was non-branded organic traffic. And we had built in the dashboard a routine that would go through. You could give us a couple keywords that told us what their brand was, and we would then go segment traffic into brand and non-brand. Well, if we're not getting keyword data, we don't know that anymore. We don't know which keywords are brand and non-brand, so we had to remove that metric. And what we did is we replaced it with just an overall organic referrals. So the idea here is that if your organic referrals are going up, that means that your SEO campaign is doing well. And that's a metric we wanted to include. On the SEO tab, we also, again, had to make a number of changes here. So the first thing is that the chart at the top of the screen here with the blue bars used to have a breakdown of brand versus non-branded traffic. We had to remove that stacking bar so that now, again, it's simply just showing you organic visits over time. But while we were doing that, we also made a couple other changes that we've been wanting to do, which was, one, we're giving you now the ability to click on domain authority and map out domain authority over time, or to switch back to what we were previously graphing, which was root links. So you can now toggle between graphing domain authority and root links. Moving down the page a bit here on the right-hand side, this used to say top traffic, and that would then show the number of visits by keyword. And as many of you who have been with us for a while saw, is that over time, the first one was always not provided, and the number of visits that not provided had continued to go up over time. So with the 100% encrypted search change at Google, that will continue. And I think we had a question from someone that said, hey, I'm still getting some keyword data. What's happening? And I just want to make sure we're clear. This is something that they've rolled out. It isn't happening overnight, but I believe that the projection is that keyword data would be gone by the by December-ish timeframe. So there's still kind of a little bit trickling here or there. And then also remember that Bing and Yahoo and other search engines out there, because there's a bunch of other sort of longer tail, small guys out there, they are still sending over the query data. So if you go into Google Analytics and you see keyword information, it's possible that that keyword information is coming from Google, but probably it's coming from one of the other search engines. So what we replaced that with on the right-hand side is we said, well, one of the things we really want to do, we're investing a lot of time and effort in building out the on-site content on the client site. And a healthy, good SEO campaign and a healthy, good website should be getting traffic to lots of pages, not just the home page. So what we want to show is that over time, as a metric, over time as you work on your content marketing program, that the number of pages receiving organic referrals will go up. And that's what this chart here on the lower right-hand side does. And then below that, what we have is we have your top, the pages that receive the most organic referrals in the trailing 30 days. This next screen is actually then a blowout of all the pages that receive organic referrals, and we're calling it entrances. The reason we call it entrances is because these are pages that actually the referral went from directly from the search engine, organic source, to a particular page on your website. So this does not include someone who landed on your homepage or went directly to your homepage and then saw on the right-hand side you recently written a nice blog post, clicked on that, and viewed it. That would not count as an entrance from an organic source. Okay, that would technically the homepage, if it was an organic referral, would be the entrance, or if they went direct, it wouldn't show up in this graph, in this chart, or this table at all. Now, the reason this is kind of interesting is because as you look at this is good to look at because it does tell you, and we've even, as we've changed this, it's amazing how this works, but we've even seen some insights on our own website. We said, wow, did you know this page, actually this one page where we answer this one question, I think it's, what is it, Adam? I think it's something like, what's a good open rate on an email? Is that the thread that's out there that we get a lot of entrances on?
Yeah, I think currently some of our Hummingbird stuff is number 2 behind our homepage, but right underneath that is an old one from a couple years ago about what is a good email marketing open rate.
Right. So, and again, it's a question, right? What's a good email marketing open rate? But you know, one of the things I can tell you, again, as you're looking at this and helping your client is, have we looked at this page recently, and what does this thing say? And when we looked at the pages, it's kind of ugly. We could probably do a way better job. We should put an infographic on this page, or we should do something that freshens this up. And that's, I think, an important part, and that's another benefit you get from this screen. Now, on the keyword screen, 2 things I want to make sure everyone's clear. Ranking data is not gone. It's still there. And it's still, I believe, it's still a very important metric that we should all be looking at, and it might even be a little more important than it was since we lost the keyword data. But on that screen, we had a column that tried to map the number of visits to the website from that keyword in the last 30 days. And again, of course, if we don't know the keywords, we don't know the number of visits, so we had to remove that column. So that's gone on this page. And just to kind of summarize then, because we did lose the keyword data, and there's a lot, you can go out there, I think there's 2 hot trending topics on the web in the online marketing space. Well, actually 3 are, Penguin 2.1, Hummingbird, and then not provided keyword data. Tons of people talking about this stuff. So our position on this is that you really have 4 metrics you want to be thinking about when evaluating the performance of an SEO campaign. And I probably have these in inverse order, because the first one is conversions. You really want to make sure that the program is generating results for your clients, and that's not only conversions from leads and phone calls, but probably also looking at the conversion rate of organic referrals. How is that organic traffic actually converting on the website? Another one is, of course, rankings. More important than ever, because we lost the keyword data, well, at least we'll know what the rankings are on those terms in the search engine. So looking at keyword rankings is important. you do want to look at overall organic traffic, because we know that, name of the game here is that over time we're going to get you more traffic. That's going to convert to more leads. That's going to have a high ROI, and your client's going to be happy. So that's another part of this. And then the last one that we added, of course, is the number of entrances from organic referrals. So number of pages receiving entrances. So the idea is that it's a count of the pages. So when you start, and the person out there, the website has a home page and 5 services page and no blog, and they're getting all their traffic to their home page, they're really getting one page is receiving all the organic referrals. Well, as we start to find good topics to write about, and we create content, compelling content, maybe even do some buzz graphics and other things, the idea is that over time, that 1 turns into 5, turns into 10, turns into 20, so that when someone says, hey, what are you guys doing for me? You can say, we've drastically expanded the scope and the breadth of your website. Not only is your organic traffic going up, but the number of the kinds of people finding your information is going up. So it's another metric you can look at to show that the programs are having an effect, are impacting their website. Okay, last one, but a very important one. We made one final change, and this is the one I will demo, of review pending client. So review pending client is a feature that we've had for a while. The idea was to eliminate some of the administrative telephone that has to go on between our analyst to the account manager to you to the end client. So the general idea was that when our analyst claims a local listing and they want to let your end customer know to be expecting a postcard, and that when they get the postcard back to please provide us the PIN number so we can finalize the verification, rather than having a task route to an AM, then to call you, and then you go to your end client, that we could send out a private labeled message to the end client that would simply say, your listing's been claimed. When you get the card, please click on the link and reply back to the number. That was the original idea of review pending client, that it would just simply stream out to the end client, save everyone some paperwork. A lot of people said, hey, my clients did not sign up for that kind of, for actually getting notifications. It's too much work. I have to review things before they see it. There was a lot of really good talk about it. We still think it's a great way for you to save time. So we really want, for as much as possible, for you guys to help us build this feature so it can save you time, not build more paperwork for you. But for those people who it just wasn't working for at all, and it was becoming an issue, especially with on-site content and the need to review things, we built an opt-out feature. So on the user profile, you can now go in the lower right-hand corner, there's a feature here that says Review Pending Client email setting. They either can receive it or they can opt out. So let me quickly go through and show you how this looks. So I'm logged in as a reseller, my fictitious reseller, Chad at VetHubs.com. And this is my reseller account. I have one user, my Gmail account. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And I wanted to show everyone where the setting is. So right now you can see that this user is set up to receive emails and also to receive the review pending client emails as well. So I'm going to make a task and show you kind of how this works. So I'm going to create a new task. I'm going to assign it to, I'm going to say test review pending client. So I'm now in a task, and what happens is when, and let's just say this is HubShout, this is a writer who's writing a piece of content, whatever it might be, but I'm ready for review. So our team, what they will do is they'll move the status to review pending client, and they'll hit update. And what that does is it goes through and identifies anyone who has access to this campaign. So it's saying that we've got a demo-user at Gmail, we've got Chad Hill at gmail.com, Chad at VetHubs.com, which is, again, the user who's logged in, and adam.stetzer at gmail.com. Okay, so if Chad Hill at Gmail was the end user, they would now receive an email with this text. Now, it would have the VetHubs branding. It would not have HubShout branding, VetHubs branding, and it would come from the VetHubs email account. And then they would get a formatted email like you guys do with our task updates. So that's how it was set up prior to our change. Let's go run that again without that change, or by opting them out, sorry. I'm going to go back. And I'm going to opt out. Oops. Opt out. Okay, I'm going to go build a new task. Okay, so I have another one, need review again. And this time I'm going to also move the status review pending client and update this again. You'll see here that it does not pick up the chadhill@gmail this time. So this would now have just been sent to demo-user@gmail, chad@VetHubs, and adam.stepster@gmail.com. So again, this would eliminate, if you didn't want chadhill@gmail to get that, to get the task update, now they would not have gotten it. They will still get, or that person will still get monthly reports, lead notifications, and whatever other settings that you set up. So again, you can always check that here on the campaign details. You have two options here where you can then say, do you want users who have access to this campaign to get the monthly newsletter, private labeled again with your brand, yes, no, monthly report, yes, no. So those settings, again, are at the campaign details area. Now, one final feature I wanted to show everyone, because I've also had some people recently asking me, I would like a consolidated list of the things that I need to do. It's hard for me to keep track of all the task email updates that I need. So I want to show everyone that on the Home tab, what you see here is task needing review. What this is a list of any task that's currently in a review pending client status. So again, there's sort of a combination. Client to us would be either you or the end client. So this is in a review pending client status, and it's something that we're waiting for feedback on. So you have the ability to get that list. This effectively is your list of tasks that need to be worked. You can come in here, get that list, make any notes, review content if there's content to review, and then when you're saying this content looks fine, or I need these changes, what you would do is you'd basically be able to click Review Complete, send back to Analyst, hit Update, and then what that's going to do is that'll take it off your list and move it into Review Needs Work, which comes back to our side of things. So this is something, now that we've got this review pending client issue kind of squared away, where people, I believe, will be much more comfortable using this feature, we're going to charge ahead with really trying to give you guys a consolidated list of the things that we need feedback on in a way that doesn't have you, having to look at every email and trying to figure out, well, of course we want you to look at every email, but this will give you that consolidated list across all of your campaigns, and I think it'll be a nice option for everyone.
All right, Chad, just in our last minute here, a few questions that have come in the chat window. One person is asking, why has Google decided to encrypt their keywords? I think that's out of scope for us today, but definitely hit the internet and hit our blogs. There's lots of answers on that. A question that I promised Kathleen that we would get to, with the changes in not provided, are there any updates to the phone or form tracking, the web to lead tracking that had to do with keywords that we need to be aware of?
Okay, that's a great question. So on both form and phone call, on the organic side of things, because when we built those features, there was already the rollout not provided, we did not have any keyword dependency on those. So no, there's nothing that needs to change there. Again, what we did build recently was the ability for us to at least tag all web leads, and we've always had the ability to tag phone calls by the source, by the medium, which effectively would be things like pay-per-click, SEO, social, email. So we do have that ability, and that is not impacted by keyword, the encrypted keyword, encrypted search.
Chad, a few people, again, on the more technical end of the spectrum may have been looking in the task notes and seeing the contents of the Google Analytics cookie and noticed that we were actually picking up the keyword and dumping it into the task notes. But just to be clear, as Chad said, we weren't doing anything with that data. That was just sort of the contents dumping out. So that will disappear, but there will be no system impact on our end.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for your time today, and we will post this webinar by close of business today. Have a great time. We have a really great webinar coming up. I'm sure it'll be highly attended. We are, in 2 weeks, going to be doing a online interactive feature sort. Got a lot of great suggestions in the forum. We're going to actually get some slides and some polls set up, and we're going to have people vote on the types of things they would like to see us working on, so that we can have, a group of people get together and give us that input directly. So we're excited about that one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So join us in 2 weeks, and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks everybody for attending. Appreciate it. Have a good one.